In this tutorial, we are going to cover Java properties, logging in Java, and automated testing. If you look at this code, and this code was kind of created in previous tutorials, we are providing these driver values and JDBC driver properties, etc. In the code itself. So what if I need to deploy this code to another database which has a different connection, username or password? So you can't be changing code and compiling it and deploying it again and again just to change these values. And so comes the concept of properties. So you can do something like new file, let's say employee.properties and jdbc.url equal to value jdbc.username equal to incref jdbc.password equal to password 1234, and then jdbc.driver equal to this value over here. And now I can do properties equal to new properties. This is core Java class properties, and I can do props dot load input stream, and my input stream could be this equal to new file input stream employee.properties. Okay, all right. And so now I can do props.get property jdbc.driver and props.get property jdbc.url jdbc.username jdbc.password. So as long as our code can find employee.properties, uh, we can load all these values from properties. So let's try to run this once more and see if it works. Okay, there's an error. Duplicate key 0 for primary. Alright, that's because I have data in my database. So I'll open up my SQL workbench. And I'll do delete from employee. Alright, so age greater than 0. Oh, I'm not able to delete it. Alright, let's do it the hard way. Select star from employee, and I'll just delete all of these rows. and let's run this again. So my properties works. Now, if you look here, I'm using all these system.out.println messages, and this is not a good way to log because system.out.println is printing only on console. What if you want to print on print to files? So you can use a library called log4j. Actually, jar is available on Maven, so I'll just use Maven. So Apache log4j. Um, I need to take the latest version. This doesn't seem to be latest version. Alright, let's just pull it from here. So log4j 1217.zip. Alright, 7-zip extract, and there's this library log4j, just like I included my JDBC driver library and include log4j. And in log4j, you need to create something called a logger. So private static logger dot get logger um, hello dot class. It has selected a wrong logging class. I need to give it to that again. It's not reading log4j. Let's see. Okay, I need to add this to the class path properties. Java build path, libraries, add jars. And now I have my logger. And instead of system.out.println, I can say logger.log. I think logger.info. Alright. And now let us see. Uh, let us see how this all works. So, logger. So if you see logger didn't print anything, I think we need to give it log4j. We need to tell it where to print. That's why it's not printing anything. Let's look at log4j tutorial to see how to set this up. So once we have added log4j, we uh, we need to tell this log4j system to configure it before anything starts. So we will do basic configurator.configure, and if you see this is a log4j class. Let's try to run it and see what happens. Alright, so all my logs are printing nicely now. Uh, So what's nice about this is that automatically my it shows me that these are my info messages, which class it is coming from, and then the message itself. And if you want to configure log4j further, so maybe you can look online on configuring log4j2. There's a lot of material on doing XML based configuration where you can tell what should the output pattern look like, or if you want to do a configuration using properties file, then you can also search for log4j2 properties file, and there are multiple examples on properties file. So I will not go into too much detail into all of this. Just wanted to show you that this is how log4j can be used instead of system.out.println, and using properties uh, or configuring log4j properly. You can write these logs to a file also. And one thing, let's say I mean, Log4j has something called levels. It's nothing but a flag uh, to identify different kinds of logs. So I can have something I can have something like log4j.1. And if I just run this, you see there is a warning message over here, inserting employees. And so this is useful to distinguish between logs uh, which have different levels of seriousness, for example, or importance, for example. Um, so log files can become very large, and you may want to see only warning level messages, or for that matter, if I just do error or error level messages. And so this is how you can control the, let's say, level of the logs while printing them. You have to be very careful of what error level you want to assign to various logs. Okay, so that covers logging, and let me see about one more thing. So I want to show you how to now configure log4j using properties file. Log4j, I'm using log4j1, and so this looks for a properties file called log4j.properties in the class path. So we'll create a new folder over here called resources. Uh, here, okay, all right, it's there. And then in properties, in properties uh, libraries, this resources should be added. So if it's not already there, you can just add class folder, click on resources, and you are done. And in this, you can create a new file called log4j.properties, and configure log4j over here. So I already have some configuration. I just copy it. What I'm telling log4j over here is that it should be printing only debug messages and above, and append those messages to a console appender and file appender, whose definitions are given below over here. You can read up all of these things on Google. Important thing is that for the file appender, I'm telling it that the file is employee.log. And now if we just try to run this, all right, it's not running. Let's see. I'll try to run it once again. And that's because I've not named this properly. rename it to log4j dot properties, and now run it. And so my logs are getting printed over here, as well as now I have this employee.log, which is all the log details. If I set this to, let us say, war, then let's see what happens. So only above levels above warning were printed, and same goes over here in new message with only error was added. Okay, so that's about logging, and then finally JUnit. So JUnit can be downloaded from this website. Download and install. I'll download this jar first, and it's also asking me to download Hamcrest. So jar. All right. So let me copy these libraries and add it over here. And again, using properties, I will have to add the jars to the class path. Okay. So how to create a test? Uh, so you can create a class called, let's say, employee test, and JUnit detects the tests using the add test annotation. These are called annotations in Java. So public void say hello, and I can do system.out.println hello. And now in Eclipse, if you right click, you can see run as JUnit test, and you can see hello over here. But how do I use this to test my hello world class? First of all, let's rename this to uh, employee. Uh, refactor to employee. Let's say let's call it an API. Okay, and um, uh, I mean, just to run this, I can do something like employee API dot main new string array of empty size, which could throw an exception. And I can do right click run as sorry, not yeah, JUnit test. And as you saw it ran, let's also change our log4j properties to have debug. But here we are not really testing anything. So we may need to now convert our employee API to a proper class. So call let's let's remove the main method from it and see if we can manage it. So public employee API is the constructor, and I'll just copy all of these things in the constructor. Uh, it throws some exception, and I can have here private uh, connection on. It's in the constructor. I can initialize this as it is, and here let's remove all the static declarations. Okay, and we don't need to pass connection over here because it's already available as a parameter or class member variable. So there you go. We don't need a main method as such now. And here I can say employee API equal to new employee API. Now it could throw some exception, and I can do something like API dot delete, API dot insert, API dot select, and let's also change this method to return the result set now. So uh, return rs. I'll just comment these in the meantime. And since we were inserting three, we should be able to get three result sets. So result set rs equal to API.select. Now JUnit has this assert method. Assert uh, equals, and I can say expected is 3, and rs dot, this should be a method. Okay, let's do it this way. So for sorry, while rs dot next, uh, we can have int I equal to 0, I plus plus, and assert equals I. Saying, hey, my result should be of size 3 after this. So let's try to run this and see what happens. So I get it true. And this is how you can write tests, basically insert something and test uh, that everything was inserted properly. So that's about properties logging in and unit testing.